When you hear the name Agbogbloshie, what first comes to your mind? Market, one of the biggest in the capital, Accra, if not in the whole country. But Agbogbloshie is not only all about market, though it was Ghana's first president, Sajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who gave his assent to the creation of the Cucumber Yam Market. What then comes to mind when Sodom and Gomorrah is mentioned? Lots of people who know what goes on there would probably frown at the mere thought of filth, trash, toxic, stink, dirt, black smoke, diseases, prostitution, rape, drugs and crimes of all gravity. That is the ironic nickname for Agbogbloshie, Accra's most notorious slum. However, Sodom and Gomorrah is a vibrant informal settlement with considerable overlap between industrial, commercial and residential zones where some 40,000 squatters reside, many of whom, if not all, hail from impoverished families whose origin can be traced to all four corners of Ghana and countries in the sub-region and beyond, such as Ethiopia, Niger, Nigeria, just to mention a few. They moved down south to the lush green capital city in search of work and to be able to make a living and send some money home. Who knows, perhaps some could break away from the poverty chain. Once there, boys and young men push open-top carts around the street, ferrying heavy loads as truck pushers, while girls and young women, some with babies clad at their backs, carry loads way too heavy for them to various destinations in and outside the market as kayayes. Others take up harvesting copper wires through the burning of old discarded electronic gadgets at a site described as the biggest, most toxic e-waste dump in the sub-region. They do all this just to feed. The bitter truth is that most Ghanaians don't often see any good in these fellows who reside in the slum. They are seen as cursed, outcast and evil. As some may even say, that's why they find themselves in such a place worse than a dungeon. However, expatriates, most of whom have heard so much about the famous Agbogbloshie as one of the biggest e-waste dump in the sub-region, travel all the way from wherever and endeavor to visit the place. Amazingly, they find so much good, hope, potential and resilient willpower of young people who just want to break the claws of poverty in their families. How come these foreign nationals see such hope, yet we don't see it ourselves? Are the people who live in Sodom and Gomorrah not our kind, from the same regions, towns and even villages where the affluent in our society come from? How come we judge them when in actual fact we have never even stepped a foot there before? Why then do we condemn them when we have not heard their stories? Well, despite the sounds, the smells and the sight, sometimes so much that one's brain may get tired, an Italian Franciscan friar, Reverend Father Claudio, who was on a Catholic mission in Ghana, took up living there and helping the dwellers of Sodom and Gomorrah.
His main aim was, 1, to get to know the people, to see what are some of their needs, and to see how the church could be of help. So as far back as 2002, the project began with him living there. Then gradually with time, the people themselves requested to have what is called adult literacy program so that they could learn how to read and how to write, literacy and numeracy, So they set up a school which they themselves called Peace Adult School. ICT was being taught. They have what they call Peace Fire Volunteer Service because the place is very volatile. very easily you have fire outbreaks. In fact, there's been about 4 big fire outbreaks in the place called Sodom and Gomorrah. It was at my first visit that we decided to change the name from Sodom and Gomorrah, such a negative, infamous name, to City of God.
They're teaching them English, they're teaching them maths, they're teaching them how to make beads, things like this. And some of them have passed through the schooling and now they're at training college. They're different in other places. This is the hope we want to give them.
A Fields Day journey to the City of God school in the heart of Sodom and Gomorrah was a winding and an uneasy one. There was virtually no access route to the place. The crew virtually had to walk through people's rooms, jump gutters and be really careful not to hit one's head against the roof of structures. When we got there, it was evident that the good work Reverend Father Claudio began about 12 years ago is still in existence. Children of school-going age are trained during the day by volunteers such as the 80-year-old Catholic sister Eileen. When these children are able to read and write some basic English, they are enrolled into the mainstream public education system. Members of the Archdiocese of Accra of the Catholic Church, missionaries, diocesan priests and other religious sisters, home and abroad, have also volunteered their lives, time and expertise to run the training center, a challenge Reverend Father Subhash Titilapilli, a missionary of Christ from India, took up when Father Claudio was called to mission elsewhere.
A response from the people is very positive, in particularly youth or men and women, those who really want to learn English. That we call it fees adult school. Students, I say that about 60 to 70 regular. It's not every day same amount number come, it go up and down. But there is a very good number. And last year we had registered about 250 students, new students. And this year only just 1 month ago we started, we only have 35 new students and few old students.
We waited for adult students for classes to begin at 7:30 p.m. As the dusk of the day was falling, a generator that was donated to the school was handy. After carrying out their jobs that leave them exhausted, at the end of the long working day, some adults persevered and came to school for various reasons.
I don't know, say to application, but I say be also one could be no intro, Untimi. I do because I won't be some crowd, and I said, I will cocosono. I was a near Brofone, young Yajima, we always saw some crowd when Tiasi. Intimi, I need just some say, Schooner Mubioano, I say, Shame you cross, Mr. Semidim Bashim, Nini Antimin Boy, that Dutching, Miss Nimam Kwame Fasa, and to me, Abuami. Nami on school. The Mebahano, I come Wahano. I'm going to say, Ublunia be a school waha. And we see a mera, your bar, or Beboy, a sea abano, I won't say, a idea where there, what boy a free school. What boy and young baby, and may be no more there. I go secondary school. And yes, a year or much young will say, at the pan or your mom, and see a buyer, so I check a cracker, a young will say, and Dino, what today, Geneti, I'm about Wahano. I'm from Niger, came this country, and I'm an electrician. So, because for some people can call me that I should come and do some estimate to them, but I don't know how to write it in English, only in French. So I said I should try to come in night school, maybe it can help me.
The City of God project, which is being spearheaded by the Catholic Church and supported by other NGOs and other individuals, is geared towards helping the people there to get a better life. It is obvious that no permanent structure can be erected there because the settlement is illegal. Hence, every now and then, the government plans to relocate the people. While the relocation is pending, the people still live there anyway. The children and young people still have their future ahead of them, and if nothing is done to salvage them, most of them may just waste away. Moreover, if the achievement of the City of God project is not sustained, the people may fall back and may even become worse off than before. The challenge, however, is who helps these people. The Catholic Church and other organizations are doing their bit, but not without challenges.
In case government want to help me, I first thing I have to do some drainage system so when rain comes, water goes to people can walk and students can come to school. And also I think it's possible to get some containers here and there you can keep so that people can throw ball out there instead of throwing here and there. Then also third, we don't have any clinic or dispensary anything here. So we're hoping to have a small, we don't call clinic, infirmary. That means immediately because some of our students or children around here always have skin disease and all things. So immediately we can do some things.
To solicit for more support for the smooth running of the school, Father Subash called on some charity workers. Among them is Mr. Claudio TURINA, an Italian writer and a lay missionary of charity. He wrote a book titled The City of God, the Most Toxic Place on Earth. The novel was written from the point of view of three people, two of whom were born and lived in Sodom and Gomorrah, yet were blessed in obtaining education and succeeded in business, but didn't come back early enough to give back to the society in which they lived, until later when they volunteered and taught at the City of God school.
The title is very contrasting. City of God, the most toxic place on earth. There is a lot that we can learn from it. And to see what we can do to help these our brothers and our sisters.
Christ gave dignity to everybody. He didn't look down on anybody. Didn't look down. He gave dignity. And that's the role of the church, is to give dignity no matter who you are. And that's why this priest, wrote this book, was to raise some funds to help Father to be able to do things. So we want others to come in and help us. It shouldn't be just for the church. We want others to come on board and say, well, what can we do to help these children? Like when you see a child that's been brought up in the likes of Sodom and Gomorrah, now he's passed through school and then goes on to training school and he's teaching in a school and this, you feel proud. You feel, I've done something. I've helped this child off the streets. He's no longer on the streets.
Mr. Claudio, who lived there and founded the charity body Gift of Universal Love to support orphans and the City of God, wrote the book, first of all, to expose the harsh reality of slum life to those who otherwise may never hear of Sodom and Gomorrah, and secondly, to raise funds for the project.
Why they declare like a most toxic place in the world? I don't say. It was a documentary in Accra 2 years ago when I was here. Not because of this area, of person who lives here, but because of rubbish that they send from everywhere in the world here. This is the problem. Problem now, it is not people who are living here. Now this is very important to make known. I hope that this book will be useful for this reason. I hope that we'll find many persons to help Father Subas for the school, for the children, for who needs to learn, read and write.
White egrets swooped down on the Agbogbloshie canal and stooped to pick at mounds of filth and trash in search of food. One wonders how the birds manage to maintain white feathers as they wad in the putrid muddy water. It is therefore not surprising that many of these young slum dwellers live here, yet they are determined not to allow themselves to be swallowed up by the filth. They have found education, which they believe is the beginning of the change chain, and are willing to take the most advantage of it. Some have gone through the walls of the City of God Peace School and made it through to the Teacher Training College and even the university. Others are well settled in various vocations taught them because some good-hearted people helped them. The novel suggests some ways and means through which each and everyone can help turn life around for especially children and young people here in the slum.